Hello, hello. I am not sure, honestly, if anyone is here or anyone will even turn up. This is my second live, and I'm doing this live because I have to tell you, it's exhausting gathering all this information and then making a video about it. So, for my sanity and life, I decided to try presenting the information live. That way, I don't have to edit the video. I can post it later for those of you who can't stay or can't come right now. And so hopefully this will save me time. And if people enjoy lives, you guys can come and participate. Let's see if anybody's here. I don't think so. I'm not seeing much of anything in the way of a chat going on. Let me see here. Okay. Well, I'm just going to keep going and we'll see what happens. Let's see here. Okay. Let me move on. I don't want to waste your time here. Okay, so I'm going to be reading this to you, and I'll try to check the chat in case anybody shows up. And I have to say, this case is just a crazy wild ride. Ah, somebody's here. Hello, Susie Rainwater. Thank you for confirming that people can hear me. That is very nice to see. All right. Well, it might just be you and me, Susie. I don't know. All right, let me get started here. This case is such a wild ride. There's so much information coming out every day, and it's pretty much impossible to stay on top of all of it and to separate the truth from the lies. There also seems to be a lot of emotion out there as well. People are getting furious with some of the interviews that have gone on with people like Kurt Wadsworth's daughter, Sammy, who was on Zav Girl the other day. Even Zav Girl, who's like one of the nicest hosts on YouTube. Oh, there's more of you here. Oh, that's exciting. Thank you for saying hello. Ozark Lisa, Mandy S, Leonard Love, welcome. So even Zav Girl, who's one of the nicest hosts on YouTube, was getting attacked apparently because people thought she was being too soft on this Sammy and that she wasn't asking her the hard questions. And I'm really kind of feeling bad for Zav because, you know, it's very hard to interview people and you have to sort of be nice to them if you want them to talk to you. And I think she was just really trying to present Sammy's perspective. She wasn't at all saying that everything Sammy said was true. You know, whatever Sammy said is just another voice and it's kind of adding to the picture. And we kind of have to sift through all of this to see what we believe and to see what sort of matches what other people are saying. And Zav isn't, you know, she doesn't work for 60 Minutes. She's not a hardcore reporter. She's just trying to bring all perspectives. So I have empathy for Zav Girl. All righty, let me keep moving here. All right, so every day we're learning more details about Montello, Lucin, Dylan Rounds, and the people surrounding his life out there in Lucin, Utah. Let me begin with some miscellaneous updates. And this information came from a live on No Thanks Investigates channel. Doug had a local named Ellen Berg and her son Dylan on the panel, as well as the PI, Jim Terry. Ellen Berg owns the buildings that house the Saddle Sore Bar and the Cowboy Bar and Cafe. If you don't know, Kurt Wadsworth rents the Saddle Sore space, and his brother Troy rents the Cowboy Bar and Cafe. Apparently their mother used to own both of those establishments. So it sounds like the Wadsworths are very long-time citizens of Montello. So I'm going to share these miscellaneous details that I came upon that I think are interesting, and then I'll have a more organized set of information to give you. So one, there's a rumor that Robert Avilis led the FBI to Dylan Round's phone recently. So this is just a rumor, but it sounds like that may have happened. Two, apparently a former FBI agent said that she believes Jim Brenner acted alone. Now, that seems to contradict what I just shared about Avilis's leading the FBI to Dylan's phone. So we have to take all of that with a grain of salt as well. That's perhaps just her opinion. And then I don't know if you guys are familiar with this person called Black Dove. He is someone who is very deeply invested in the case, and he's been doing a phenomenal job of researching. According to him, it's come to light that Dylan Rounds spent about 60 days away from home, sharing a hotel room, excuse me, with Jim Brenner because they were working somewhere away from Lucin on a farm. And that's all that was said about that. I don't think there's any kind of romantic thing there. They just had to share the room apparently. And it was for a period of 60 days. So clearly Dylan and Jim Brenner must know each other pretty well. Let's see. And it's unclear, did they get along during that period or did it increase their animosity? Black Dove at this point is saying that he thinks there's a 50-50 chance that Dylan may still be alive. And that kind of gave me hope because he's really been a good voice for accurate information. And I feel like if he thinks there's a chance, maybe there's something to it. In my own mind, I think it would be an absolute miracle if Dylan were found at this point alive, and things don't really point in that direction. But I'm glad to hear that some people think there's a 50-50 chance. Hi, Ruth D. Hi, Martha Larrabee from Kentucky. It's one of my favorite states. We used to travel there when I was a kid for vacations. So it's near and dear to my heart. All right, I'm going to keep moving on here. Per Ellen Berg, there are 54 people who live in Montello full time. She also admitted that those buildings with the saddle sore and the Cowboy Cafe don't have cameras either inside or out. So that's kind of unfortunate, so we don't have any way of seeing, any activity there from the past. Also, the fired PI, Jim Terry, mentioned that there's an empty building in Montello that apparently only one person has the key to, and it might be Kurt Wadsworth, I'm not quite sure. And Terry wants someone to go into that building to look for Dylan. A lot of people are saying that's silly. It's an abandoned building apparently, but he thinks there's a possibility that a body could be stashed in there, but that does seem kind of like a remote possibility. Who would stash a body right in town? But you never know. People do weird things, and sometimes putting things right under somebody's nose might actually hide it in some weird way. Okay, next, Troy Wadsworth apparently is furious with that PI, Jim Terry, because he feels that he's been slandering him and he's threatening to sue Terry for this. Another curious fact about Troy, he doesn't have a driver's license. No one said why that is, though. And there was a rumor yesterday that Troy was arrested, but nobody seems to know anything about that. And so I think it's just a rumor. And nobody said why he might have been arrested. So I'm going to kind of blow that off as a rumor at this point. In a freezer, possibly in that building. You're right. That is definitely a possibility. Good point, Sylvia. So Kurt Wadsworth was described by Jim Terry as having sister wives that he's met on the internet. Ellen Berg told Terry that she has never seen Kurt, or she hasn't seen Kurt with a woman in a very long time. Now, this could be because Montello only has 54 people living there and there aren't a lot of single women. So we can't really use this as proof that Kurt may be gay. Ellen also stated that she only noticed Dylan Rounds a few times, that he was in the Cowboy Bar and Cafe one time getting a root beer. She says she's not all that observant, so she's not the best authority on those things. I know I'm jumping around a lot here, but I had sort of these miscellaneous things that I wanted to get out there. So please just bear with me. Oh, hi, Extra AF. Oh, you thought my voice was a bot. Oh, really? That's interesting. I'm still trying to play with my voice and figure out the best way, how it best comes across. I know it sounds different sometimes depending upon, my pace and everything. Okay, let me go on here. Kurt Wadsworth recently said that a few days into Dylan's disappearance, his father, Justin, got a call from someone claiming to be in Mexico, who said that they had Dylan and they were going to start hurting him by doing something to his fingers. I'm not going to say specifically, but you can kind of guess. Per Kurt, Justin Rounds allegedly disregarded this call. He didn't think it had any validity. So that's a story that's hearsay. It comes secondhand from Kurt, so we can't know if it's true. And there are a few more connections in this case to Mexico. Apparently Dylan's uncle lives in Mexico, and there's said to be a Mexican kid who works for both Dylan and his grandfather. And I don't think that has anything to do with the case. I think that whole Mexican thing might be a red herring, but I'm not sure. Okay, and now, despite Dylan's mother initially saying that Dylan's phone, key fob, and gun were not found, we're now hearing from Kurt, from his daughter, from Ty Corbin, from Jess, the YouTuber who has interviewed Kurt multiple times, that either all or some of these objects have been found. Kurt specifically said that Don Hatley told him that the key fob was found on a table in Dylan's trailer, and that the gun was found in dirty laundry in the trailer on the second day of the family's search. Dylan's father also told a reporter that the key fob was found. So I think we can be pretty sure that the key fob was found. Apparently, Dylan's grandparents brought a key fob for the F-150 truck, and they brought it when they came to the farm to search for Dylan, so that might have led to some of the confusion. Oh, Scott H is here. Hi. So nice to see you. Thank you for showing up here. That's so nice. According to Kurt, Dylan's gun is a .40 caliber Glock, and Dylan did not have a holster for it, and he did not carry it on his body with him everywhere. He usually stored it in his truck in the door pocket. Per Kurt, Dylan would bring the gun into the saddle sore and put it on the table when he was there. Kurt also stated that when it was really cold outside, Dylan was known to bring a bedroll and sleep inside the saddle sore on a pool table. Dylan's family may want to update their official Facebook page to clarify those things about the gun, the key fob, and the phone, just to put a rest to the rumors, unless they're being told not to talk about those things. I don't know. Also of note, Kurt apparently does not have a house in Montello. He has multiple mobile homes, and he sleeps in one of those. Okay, moving on. Another miscellaneous fact here. Well, I don't know if it's a fact. It's what Candace Cooley said, and she is Dylan's mother. She said that he had about $5,000 worth of, and I'm probably not going to pronounce this correctly, triticale seed that he was planting. And then there's been talk about the gate. that Dylan needed to get by in order to get his seed truck to the grain shed. There are photos circulating of a metal gate that appears to have been knocked down and replaced with a wire gate, although no one knows when that first gate was knocked down and when it was replaced. We know Jim Brenner had a key to that gate, and it appears that Dylan did not have a key and would have had to ask Jim Brenner to let him in. Some are speculating that perhaps Dylan, in a rush to get to the grain shed, maybe used his truck to ram that first gate down. That's just speculation. And it's been said that Dylan could be a hothead at times, and that, if he had knocked that gate down, that could have enraged Jim Brenner, who we also know is a hothead and has been somebody that gets into fights with people. He's got a very violent criminal past. So there does seem to have been a power struggle over that gate. And I will post the photos of the original metal gate and the new wire one so that you can all see that there were two different gates, or that there are two different gates. People have also talked about damage to Dylan's red Ford F-150 truck, but he would likely not have been driving that on Saturday because he was trying to get the seed truck to the grain shed. I suppose it's possible that he could have driven that truck. Maybe the grain truck was somewhere beyond the gate, but not in the shed. Who knows? Apparently, Candace's husband, Mike, said something about the Ford truck having a very odd dent in the front of the truck. And we also heard from Sammy, Kurt Wadsworth's daughter, that the damage to the F-150 occurred earlier in the winter, but it's possible that there could have been different incidents that led to damage to Dylan's Ford truck. I'm wondering if Dylan could have been driving the seed truck and worried about the seed and feeling impatient. Maybe he knocked the fence down to get to the grain shed. Now I'm wondering if the seed truck shows any signs of damage. That's just me speculating, but there seems to be something about the grain shed and that gate. Another odd detail that came out about the seed truck. Apparently, when Candace got to the grain shed on Monday, May 31st, there were large ruts in the ground that made it appear as if whoever parked the seed truck had trouble getting it into the shed. Now, we've heard from Kurt Wadsworth that Jim Brenner knew how to drive the seed truck and had done it many, many times. So were those ruts there because someone unfamiliar with the seed truck parked it? Or was it just because whoever parked it was in a hurry? We don't know. It's looking like it's possible that Dylan Rounds might not have been the person who parked the seed truck. So maybe whatever happened to him occurred before he got the truck to the grain shed and parked it. That's definitely a possibility. Okay, I'm seeing the barbed wire was put up by Jim and had a padlock. Okay, and Dylan wasn't given the key. Yes, that's what I heard. Yeah, and it sounds like you could get a lot of damage to your trucks, whether it's the seed truck or the Ford F-150 on a farm. Right. I don't know about that seed getting damaged. It sounds like the grandfather took over, that he's been kind of, for a period of time at least, planted the grain to make sure that the crop was being taken care of during this period while Dylan's missing. So I think it did make it into the shed before it got wet. I also heard something today that, all this time I thought that it was raining at 6:51 a.m. when Dylan spoke to his grandmother, but it's sounding like maybe the rain came later. So that's something I think I need to investigate. I'm not sure if it was pouring. I was under the impression that Dylan was saying it was pouring and he needed to get that seed truck over to the grain shed. So that's unclear. But one thing that is clear right now is that the call that Dylan had with the grandmother, he is the person who made the call to the grandmother. They have that from the phone records. So there was speculation about who called who and how weird it was that they were talking at that time. But apparently that call was originated from Dylan's phone. Okay, let me see. So we know Jim Brenner has been called a suspect by law enforcement in the case. So to me, that must mean that they know something about his involvement. Also, Dylan's boots were found near the shed and Brenner's trailer, but those could have been planted if somebody planned this and they wanted to make Brenner look guilty. But again, why would Ellie call Brenner a suspect in that case? You know, I'm vacillating every day between, did Brenner hurt Dylan, or is Brenner maybe not involved and it's more like Chase Venstra and this Robert Avilis are the ones who might have done something to him because they might have wanted to rob him. I don't know. There's a lot going on with these things. Now there's another scenario too, a third one that came up, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. No, I think there was rain, but it might not have been, you know, at 6:51 a.m. Maybe it was forecasted to be coming. I'm not sure. So let's move on to the information that Ellen and Dylan Berg shared on No Thanks Investigates channel. We had the fired PI, Jim Terry, on the panel, Ellen Berg, and her son Dylan Berg. So we have two Dylans in this case, which might add to some of the confusion. So when I'm talking about Dylan Berg, I'll probably say Dylan Berg. I don't want you guys to get confused. Okay, during the live, Jim Terry aggressively pushed Ellen's son Dylan to talk about something he saw Kurt Wadsworth doing. Terry was intent on vindicating himself because he'd been claiming that Kurt and Dylan are gay and that they may have been in a relationship, while Kurt's daughter, and Dylan's mother have been vehemently denying those claims. So Dylan suffers from having, Dylan Berg, suffers from having only half a lung since birth. That's just a detail that came up that I thought was interesting. He comes across as very credible and sincere, but again, we don't know who we can trust and who we can't trust here, so keep that in mind. He was reticent to talk on air about what he knows about the Wadsworths and what he's seen in and around Montello. As he explained it, he lives just down the block from the Saddle Sore bar, and he has concerns about his safety and that of his mother, Ellen. According to Dylan, he and his mom go out in the desert often, and while they carry a gun, he still worries that something bad could happen to them if they speak out. He also said that the Elko Sheriff's Office is not quick to respond to calls, and often they don't really do anything. So it sounds like he doesn't feel that he would be protected by law enforcement, or that they might not get to them in time if something were to happen to them. So I have to say, this whole area sounds like the Wild West. It's like a place where the law doesn't want to get involved, they stay out of it, and the people tend to settle their disputes with guns, maybe. Dylan went on to describe Montello as a place where you have hardworking people on the one hand, and then you have these tweakers on the other hand, and there seems to be no segregation because it's such a small town. So all of these people are mingled together, the hardworking, honest folk, and then these criminals that turned up at some point, the Chase Venstras, the Robert Avilises. So after much pressure, Dylan did cave in, and he admitted that he believes the rumors of Kurt Wadsworth being into young men. He thinks those rumors are true. But again, take it with a grain of salt. We don't know for sure who's telling the truth here. That said, though, I see no reason for Dylan Berg to lie about that. And like I said, he sounds very genuine. Dylan claims to have seen Kurt Wadsworth in his trailer one night when Dylan went over there and knocked on the door. And when the door opened, Kurt appeared to have something very, very red on his lips. And Dylan didn't say it outright, but he was hinting that he might have been wearing lipstick. Dylan Berg also stated that he's never met Dylan Rounds, but he does know what his truck looks like. And he said that he often saw it parked at the saddle sore. And when Dylan went missing, Dylan said that there were rumors that Dylan might be gay. And because Dylan's family, I guess, is Mormon, and in Berg's words, that would mean that they view him being gay as a sin or something that could have got him excommunicated. He may have hid this from his family. Now, those are Dylan's words. I'm not 100% sure how the Mormon community as a whole reacts to people who are gay, and I really don't want to debate it. I'm just sharing what Dylan said. It's becoming clear, though, that Dylan may have been living a secret life in Lucin and Montello, far away from the eyes of his family. He may have spoken to them all the time on the phone, but he might not have been sharing all the details of his life. But again, it's hearsay, so we don't know. And whether that has anything to do with his disappearance remains to be seen. But I do think it's important to know the backdrop of Dylan's life. If he were involved with Kurt in an intimate relationship, that would be important information. We know from US crime reports that about 1 in 5 homicide victims are killed by an intimate partner. So we can't ignore those rumors. Dylan also mentioned, Dylan Berg, that in 2013, when he was out in the desert, someone shot at him and a bullet went by his head. So once again, it's like that desert area out there is like the Wild West. All right, now let's move on to what Dylan Berg's mother, Ellen, shared. But let me just take a drink right now because my throat is dry, and let me take a look at the chat. I don't want to ignore you guys. Oh, hi, Cracker Jack. Thank you for saying that. That's so sweet. I have been to Arkansas too, to the Lake of the Ozarks, which was absolutely beautiful. And I loved it. I'd love to go back there. Hi, everybody. Hi, Will. Hi, Mama Shamita. I don't know if I said that right. Larry Lane. Yes, he does seem afraid of the Wadsworths, maybe. Although, it's strange. The Bergs seem to like the Wadsworths. I'll get into that in a minute. So there is some sort of relationship thing going on there that's kind of crazy. Oh, thank you, Cracker Jack. I'm trying. I'm really trying. I'll tell you, I have a headache today from going through all this information and trying to get it straight. Hi, CSI. Yes, I ventured on here. Part of me is absolutely terrified, but part of me is also stoked because this is kind of fun. And also it's going to save me time because I'll tell you, editing those videos is just like, it takes a lot of time. So I'm hoping this might just make my life a little easier, and actually maybe we'll all have a lot more fun and I can interact with you guys and get to know you. So, maybe this will be my new way of communicating, maybe at least part of the time. We shall see. But I so appreciate you guys showing up, all of you. You go to junk stores in Greenbrier. Ooh, that sounds like fun. I love consignment stores. I buy lots of furniture in consignment stores because they have like the most beautiful stuff that I couldn't afford, new, but you can get it in these high-end, consignment stores. But that's another story. You probably don't want to hear about that. So I'm just going to move on now. Let me take a sip here, and then I'll tell you about what Ellen Berg had to say. Okay, much better. Ellen said that she met with Dylan Round's mother, Candace Cooley, and Cooley's second husband, I guess, Mike, after Dylan went missing and they met at a casino in Wendover, Nevada. Ellen said she met with Cooley because she's concerned about Dylan and she felt that she could give Candace some information about Montello that might be helpful in the search. Remember, Dylan's family, at least his parents, apparently had never been out to Lucin. They actually had to get directions to his farm. So they're not really well versed in Lucin or Montello. So I think that was Ellen's way of trying to help them. And one of the topics they had was Kurt Wadsworth's phone call to Candace about Dylan being held hostage. According to Ellen, Kurt said that Kurt called Candace 3 times and told her that her son was being held hostage. Berg also stated that all of Montello knows about those calls. And it's believed that these calls were made on Tuesday, May 31st, because that's the day they apparently went over to Robert Avilis's mother's house to search it. So those calls would have prompted that search of that home. But Kurt Wadsworth is saying that he made those calls to Candace maybe 8 or 9 days out after Dylan went missing. So there's a big discrepancy there, and to me, it sounds like, the Tuesday, May 31st date makes sense because of that search. Now, Berg said she doesn't think Kurt or Troy Wadsworth are capable of harming Dylan, even though Kurt made those calls and, the calls seem kind of shady and, what's going on here. And Kurt and his daughter have said that he got that hostage story from a psychic who I believe is one of Kurt's online wives, maybe somebody I don't know if she's an online wife or the wife he had the children with. I think it might be the wife he had the children with, because Sammy said that it was her mother who reads tarot cards. And so that might have come from those tarot cards. And Dylan's family has not been asked for a ransom. So that story seems kind of shady. They didn't find Dylan in the house. The family hasn't been asked for a ransom. Very strange. So Berg confirmed that Dylan Rounds and Kurt were friends, but she doesn't know if Dylan and Kurt were in an intimate relationship. She also talked about once seeing Kurt get extremely angry. And this was about 3 weeks before Dylan went missing, because she and her sister removed a trailer that belonged to Kurt that Ellen allowed Kurt to park on some of her land. She agreed to store it there with the idea that he was going to remove it within a certain period of time. And when Kurt failed to do that, they had the trailer removed. And Kurt went ballistic because apparently there's some copper or a copper pipe or something under the trailer that he wanted. And he was just absolutely livid about that. So Kurt has a temper, apparently. And let me see here. I doubt that that incident with the trailer has anything to do with Dylan's disappearance, but it does sort of add to the picture we have of Kurt if we are to believe Ellen. As for Dylan Rounds, Ellen described him as often appearing dirty when he turned up in Montello, looking like a farmer who was out doing hard work. She said he was scroungy. She used the word scroungy, and often sweaty, which makes sense because Dylan was, by all accounts, a very hard worker, and he can't shower in his trailer in Lucin. It doesn't have running water. So he would have to come into Montello if he wanted to get a shower, a hot meal, all of that. So Ellen is confirming that Dylan is a very hardworking young man. And when he's not working his own farm, he works for other farms, including a place called the Wine Cup Gamble Ranch, which apparently is kind of famous. It has its own website. It looks like it's been there for quite a while. So it's easy to see how some of the criminal element around Montello might have seen Dylan as a good target for robbing, because all that hard work translates to making good money. And everyone in town knew about a recent check for $33,000 apparently that Dylan got. So it's possible that his disappearance could be connected to money, even though no one knows if Dylan keeps large amounts of cash on his person or in his trailer. I mean, I would doubt that he would. But you know, these guys like Avilis and Venstra, who don't apparently have money of their own and have to rob to get money, you know, they might have heard about that check and wanted to go out there to check it out. According to Ellen, the nearest bank from Montello is about 54 miles away. And there aren't any ATMs in Montello, and there definitely aren't any in Lucin. Berg also said that she doesn't believe that Dylan drank any alcohol at the saddle sore. The only thing she witnessed him drinking was a root beer. Apparently, people have been wondering if Dylan, as a Mormon, drinks alcohol. She also stated that the saddle sore bar is closed 90% of the time, and that she has no idea how Kurt Wadsworth manages to pay the rent, which is $1,200, when the bar is closed most of the time. So Doug of No Thanks Investigates, he's been speculating that the bar may have been being used as a place to launder money. He also thought that maybe there was something going on with meth or heroin. That is pure speculation. Do not write that down as fact. But it is very strange that Kurt's able to cough up this money when he only has the bar open 90% of the time. It's very, very strange. Ellen also said that the meth heads that we're hearing about that are out there started hanging around in the area during the pandemic at some point. Let me see what you guys are saying. A lot of people found Dylan annoying and jerkish. Yes, I've heard that too, that he could sort of come across as condescending, I believe somebody said. Sort of sounds like, you know, here's this 19-year-old out there, and through the help of his grandfather and his own hard work, he saves enough money, he gets this farm. He's probably pretty confident too, because people say what a good welder he is. He definitely has skills that he uses to make money on other people's farms. He was probably a little bit full of himself, you know, all this success at a young age, you know, without the wisdom maybe of, hey, you know, in time you might get knocked off that pedestal. He might have been kind of condescending and full of himself at that point. Ellen went on to say that Kurt Wadsworth can be a weird MFer and an a-hole. Those are exact quotes. But she doesn't think he's a murderer. She actually praised Kurt and talked about him taking his backhoe out to Lucin to work for Dylan and other farmers. She also praised Troy Wadsworth, saying he's an animal lover and he's not someone capable of murder. She also talked about the Wadsworth's mother, who she says is a very nice lady and a bit of a workaholic. I believe she owned the Saddle Sore and possibly the Cowboy Bar and Cafe before Ellen Berg bought them. So Ellen seems to genuinely like Troy and the mother, but she says she has a love-hate relationship with Kurt. So that's interesting. Kurt sounds like some people don't really like him either all that much. So, and, you know, and when you hear him in these interviews, he does sound kind of a bit loud. I don't know. His personality is a little bit like the PI's, Jim Terry, you know. Jim Terry and Doug were wondering why the Bergs feel like this loyalty to the Wadsworth, because they were sort of saying to them on this live that, hey, Kurt, hey, Troy, if you know anything, you know, please come and tell us. We're willing to support you. We'll help you. They seem to think the Wadsworths know something about what happened to Dylan, but that they're also afraid to come forward. So that is very interesting. They also talked about the third Wadsworth brother, Scott, and he has a very scary criminal past. He's 53 years old, and I believe he's an RSO. In 2003, he essayed a teenage girl, and she and her family pressed charges, and he was found guilty. So that is quite serious. And then he also allegedly held 3 women captive. This is allegedly. I didn't find anything about this so far in terms of an article or proof. One of those women apparently was his girlfriend, and he held them in a shed allegedly and forced them into sex acts. And this only stopped when one of the women managed to escape. So Scott sounds kind of scary. All right, let me see. Yeah, we probably all were cocky at 19. Let me see here. Yes, I saw that video too of Chase Venstra singing on stage and with a guitar. Yes. Apparently he's got some other talents. All right. Well, why would a 19 want to be out there? You know, there's a couple of things. I mean, okay, so the land was inexpensive, apparently, and that was a way to get his grandfather maybe to help him get a farm. It sounds like he was really eager to become a farmer and get started. So the cheap land afforded him the possibility to have that. And then I also started thinking, you know, let's say Dylan is gay. Don't know that, but let's say he is, and his family has made it clear through his upbringing that that's not okay. That's, you know, whatever. Maybe that's a way to have a secret life away from your family too, where they don't know what you're up to every day. I mean, I think some people do that if they've received a lot of messages from the family that this is a sin, you can't do this. Maybe that was part of the draw. I don't know. One thing that's clear about all 3 Wadsworth brothers, they hate Chase Venstra and Robert Avilis. Ellen said she would not put it past Venstra and Avilis to have done something to Dylan. And when she was asked what she thinks happened to Dylan, she said it could be an accident. So I'm thinking maybe she meant by this, maybe people went out to rob him and an accident occurred. We've heard from Kurt that if somebody came at Dylan, he would have fought him tooth and nail. So that's a possibility, I guess. Somebody on the panel also asked if it's possible that Scott Wadsworth could have been angry with Dylan because he gave Chase Venstra a ride into Montello on that Wednesday. I believe that is Wednesday, May 24th, when Chase suddenly appeared on the side of the road out in the desert in Lucin. Ellen Berg said yes, and it's because Chase Venstra has stolen stuff from all of the Wadsworths. And at this point, the question was asked, is there animosity between the Wadsworths and Venstra and Avilis, something akin to the Hatfields and the McCoys? And Berg indicated yes. So this is sort of like the third theory, I guess. It sounds like there's 2 camps in the area. You've got the Wadsworths, and then you've got Venstra and Avilis. And this is apparently why there is a group of people out there, some have called vigilantes, who do their own armed patrol of the neighborhood and the desert. I guess they got sick of people stealing things, and so they do this. And she also said that Venstra and Avilis often cruise around in their cars at night looking for places to rob, allegedly, okay? She didn't think that these people are really vigilantes. She said that's getting blown out of proportion. It's more like citizens who want to protect their property. So I think that they've had to go to these lengths because Berg is saying that the Elko Sheriff's Office rarely does anything and fails to take action against, you know, people calling in and, you know, complaining that Venstra and Avilis are up to things. So it seems like Elko County Sheriff's Office doesn't really step up to the plate and come out there to try to settle these things. So the people started thinking, well, we need to do it ourselves. And so they were speculating that maybe Dylan got caught between the two warring groups, and that might be why he was targeted. So to me, that's maybe a third theory. Right. I think vigilante is too strong a word. I think the word militia was also used, and that too has some very negative connotations. So I think, that's probably too strong as well. Let me see what else you guys are saying here. Oh, you have a friend that lives in Elko. You might ask them about that, because that seems to be something a lot of people are saying about that particular sheriff's office. Um, I think they might, I don't know. No, it was Box Elder that Candace Cooley was complaining about as well, that they really didn't get, didn't get very involved right after Dylan went missing. And that's why she went public with this and went on YouTube to get the FBI involved, because she felt that they were not taking this seriously and not doing all that they could, because they weren't processing. They didn't say, leave the truck here, leave the trailer here. We need to process those as possible crime scenes. They were given the boots, and apparently the boots sat in a patrol car or something for a week before anyone bothered to test them. So I think that it sounds like there's a lot of lackadaisical, law enforcement out there, maybe because it's such a remote location. I don't know. And because of the location of the farm and everything, you've got Idaho, you've got Utah, and then you have Nevada. And so they can easily say, well, that's your jurisdiction. This is our jurisdiction. No, we're not going to go there. It sounds like some of that was going on. Okay, so Ellenberg also said that news that Dylan Rounds might be gay likely rocked his mother's world. Apparently, Candace told Ellen that she's learning things about her son that she didn't know. And at this point, she doesn't care if Dylan is gay, she just wants him back. And I would imagine that when your child goes missing like this, all that stuff that seemed like a problem melts away, and you suddenly realize how precious that child is just as they are. You don't care about that. You just want your kid back. So Ellen, okay, I think I said there are no cameras inside or outside the Saddle Sore or the Cowboy Bar and Cafe, even though they tell everybody they have them. So now that that cat's out of the bag, I think they better get some cameras. Ellen also touched on Chase Venstra, and she was saying that he can break into just about anything and that he's the world's best criminal. She was highly ticked off that Elko County had the opportunity to arrest Chase for gun possession earlier, and they did nothing about it. She basically told Elko County Sheriff's Office to F off. That's how mad she is. And it's starting to sound like they need a little shakeup over there, especially if it turns out that Chase Venstra harmed Dylan and Elko County could have taken him into custody before this. That would be very hard to swallow. Ellen also talked about Dylan's farm. This is interesting. She said that the land is a failure of a farm, and that although Dylan was having success this year growing grain, she was pretty confident that in 3 years the farm would have failed because of the salt in the water out there, because of its proximity to the Great Salt Lake. The farm has very salty water. Dylan can't bathe in it, he can't drink it, and it sounds like he has to go to great lengths to treat it so that he can use it to water his crops. So, and she also made it sound like, in her opinion, Larry Rounds, Dylan's grandfather, and Dylan were taken in by the previous owner and bought the land, land that was going to fail eventually because of the salt water. And maybe Ellenberg knows about this because she's been living there the whole time. And there was a farm there before that failed because of that. So, that's kind of sad to hear because it sounds like Dylan was so gung ho about turning that farm into a success. And maybe he didn't realize, or maybe Ellen's wrong, but she said it's happened before and the previous owner knew that when he sold them the land. So we're also, let me see. I think I already talked about the deep ruts in the ground, right? At the shed. And that whoever parked the grain truck, from the ruts in the ground there, it appeared that whoever did park that truck had trouble getting it into the shed. All right. Now more about Chase Venstra. Okay, from an article that I found on ksl.com about Chase, there's more details about the search of his motor home. So when the Davis County Sheriff's Office and Box Elder County Sheriff's office served a search warrant on his residence in West Point, Utah on June 12th, in conjunction with a homicide investigation, 2 firearms were found inside the motor home. Because Venstra is a convicted felon, he cannot legally own firearms. It is not clear which homicide investigation the police were referring to, which is weird because Dylan hasn't been found. I'm not sure if the police would have considered his case a homicide at that point on June 12th, but it's very odd. Another person's home was also searched that day. Let me see here. Like Jim Brenner, Chase Venstra apparently asked a friend of his to hold on to firearms for him. And in that home, the police located 3 firearms in a water heater closet in the garage. They also found a bulletproof vest and ammunition, and another firearm was found in a crawl space in a child's bedroom. That is really scary. I'm wondering if that was Robert Avilis's mother's home in Montello. The article did not state whose home that was. Okay, so the Elko County Sheriff's Department only recently began to patrol Montello. So they've stepped it up right now. That's good. Wow, okay. So if you guys don't know about Robert Avilis, I thought I'd share a little information about him. He's 38 years old and he has an extensive criminal background. Surprise, surprise. Everybody in this case seems to have a shady past. Avilis's criminal history includes an attempted burglary in 2004 in Nevada. He was sentenced to 2 to 5 years for that. And he was later sentenced to prison on 5 additional attempted burglary charges, grand larceny, fraudulent use of a credit card, burglary, and assault with a deadly weapon. In 2007, Avilis was accused of breaking into an office at the Red Lion Hotel in Elko, Nevada. He stole a master key and began entering guest rooms. Wow. Okay, and then in December of 2021, in West Wendover, Nevada, Avilis allegedly eluded police in a car that contained meth and stolen property. Apparently, Avilis was driving a Toyota pickup through a residential area at speeds of up to 50 miles per hour when the police spotted him and gave chase. The pickup turned into a casino parking lot, jumped a curb, and Avilis fled on foot. Inside the vehicle, the police found methamphetamine as well as an iPhone that had been reported missing in a separate burglary incident. In addition to the iPhone, the car also contained additional cell phones, tablets, players' cards, a bank card, and other miscellaneous items. The wily Avilis managed to escape from the police, and the law did not catch up with him until July 3rd of 2022. That's when Robert Avilis was booked into the Elko County Jail. with his bail listed at $35,000. So it sounds like Robert Avilis's crime of choice is armed robbery, and he's quite daring in his crimes. It might just be robbery. Let me remove that armed robbery. But he's very daring, and at some point he turned up in Montello at his mother's home after he was released from prison. So in Dylan Round's case, Avilis is believed to have given his buddy, Chase Venstra, a ride out to Lucin on the Saturday that Dylan went missing. Avilis allegedly dropped Venstra off by some trees near Dylan's pond. At that point, Venstra supposedly drove off on a three-wheeler into the desert. Now, what's weird about that is, how is a three-wheeler just out there for his use? That detail there is kind of strange, so I don't know about that one. But it is very scary that Venstra was out there on Saturday. It's very alarming to know that he was near the farm and near Dylan. He's clearly a dangerous guy, and I doubt he was out in Lucin to help out on Dylan's farm. So we've got Venstra near Dylan's farm. We have Jim Brenner 5 miles away near the grain shed where Dylan's boots were found. And then there's Robert Avilis, who was also in Lucin apparently, even if it was just to drop Venstra off. So now in my mind, I started to wonder if Brenner, Venstra, and Avilis could have been accomplices in whatever happened to Dylan, or could Venstra have worked just in tandem with Avilis? This is just me speculating because of where these individuals were on Saturday when Dylan vanished. It's also possible that Jim Brenner had nothing to do with this, although, again, the law enforcement said he's a suspect. So it's a little bit strange. And also, I don't think Jim Brenner would have put Dylan's boots so close to his trailer if he did something. You know, we've heard Brenner's not too swift, but you think he'd be smart enough that if he hurt Dylan, he would have had the wherewithal to hide the evidence, the boots. So I'm wondering where Jim Brenner was throughout that entire Saturday. Would he have seen Avilis and Venstra out in Lucin that day? I don't know. So many questions. Okay, that's the end of what I gathered for today. Now, let me look at the chat. Let me take another sip here. Sorry, I'm just really thirsty. All right, let's see what's going on here. You're still here. Thank you. Okay, what have we got going here? You know what's weird about the whole meth thing and everything? Remember the story that Kurt Wadsworth told about Jim Brenner's trailer that he originally had out in the desert somewhere, that Brenner was robbed at some point and that the trailer was blown up? Somebody pointed out to me that, you know, maybe that trailer blew up because maybe there was meth being cooked inside of it. That does kind of make sense, and it gave me visions of Breaking Bad, you know. Who knows? You know, and maybe like you've got Jim Brenner with that gate and putting the lock up and everything, making it difficult for Dylan to get to the grain shed when Dylan allegedly had permission from the owner to use the grain shed. So why was Jim Brenner putting up these barriers and making it difficult for Dylan to get there? So that made me think, well, maybe Brenner's doing something in his trailer over there too. Pure speculation. I have no clue. Just wondering. All right. Anybody have any questions? I don't know how many of you are here still. I know you are, Ozark Lisa, and I thank you. Yeah, I think that the meth thing needs to be investigated. Especially, you know, and that saddle sore, how does he pay the rent? That's kind of weird. How do you make money if you're only open 90% of the time? Could there be something going on with drugs behind that business? All right. I feel like I might have lost some of you. I'm not seeing any new comments. So what I'm going to say now is thank you for showing up. I will be posting this so that it's available in case you want to go back over all that information, because there is a lot there. And oh, thank you. Extra AF, you're here. Thank you. Ah, CSI is still here. You're listening. Okay. Oh, thank you, Ozark Lisa. I'm trying really hard because I'm a lover of true crime. That sounds weird. I'm not happy that people get abducted and or disappear. Oh, you're welcome, Leonard Love. Yes, hit that thumbs up on the way out. That would help me so much. I think I'm going to be doing these more often because, oh, thank you, Scott H. Wow, that is so generous. I'm trying. I'm telling you, it's exhausting. I can't believe there's so many people showing up on these panels every night, and they're all kind of, and then you've got Candace Cooley, and some of the information she shared in the beginning is proving to not be true. And I don't think she did that deliberately. Yeah, that is super kind, Scott H. I've seen you, Scott H, leaving really nice comments on my videos, and I so appreciate it. You've been such a helpful voice in the Summer Wells case. So it's really cool to see you here. It's very flattering, actually, that you guys are here. You too, CSI. Yeah, YouTube is really amazing. And, what's interesting in this Dylan Rounds case is how much information is coming out every night. And, it is hard to sift through all of it. But it's amazing what these, web sleuths, all of us, and other people, how this information is getting sorted out. We're not hearing anything from the family. We're not hearing anything from law enforcement. And yet, as people in the area call in and people get, are contacted by the, Ty Corbin and Ellen Berg, they're adding all these layers of information. And they're actually piecing things together. I think there is some truth that's coming out of all this online sleuthing. So it's really quite amazing. The trouble is sifting through the rumors, making it clear what's speculation and then what's fact, and also pointing out when there's contradictory information by what maybe Candace said and what their official Facebook page says versus what we're hearing. So, but that adds a layer of information too. When you see contradictions, that makes you question things. Right, CSI, I know that you are a really good researcher. I am learning. I really don't know how to get into all these places and get the information. Like, for instance, today or yesterday, apparently, Chase Venstra had a hearing, but I don't know where to go necessarily to find information on that. And I don't know if it's even available publicly. Maybe it's private. You're welcome, Mama Shamita. Thank you. So, I'm learning. I have a lot to learn, and I think I could definitely pick up tips from Scott H, CSI, but it is really cool to be going through this learning process too. And you are not a YouTube researcher. You are in real life career. That's why. Okay. Yeah, I figured you seem to have in-depth knowledge of things. And I've really found your chats with, now I'm losing track of the names here, sorry. Andy Bernard have been absolutely fascinating. Boy, oh boy, Jody Sue Brown has driven me crazy because of her incredibly long lives trying to get information out of there. It's like my brain hurts from trying to listen to those. My goodness. So it was really wonderful to hear from Andy. I'm hoping maybe he'll do some more. I know that he's probably caught a lot of flack, maybe. I know you have. It's really unfair. It's unfair that Zavgirl was getting flack for her interview with Kurt Wadsworth's daughter, Sammy. It's really unfair because she's just trying to share the information. She's not saying this is true, this is whatever. She's just saying, here's another voice. Let's add it into the mix. Let's sift through it and try to see what we can find here. Yeah, it's so hard. I haven't been on Jody Sue's lives lately because I just had to take a break. Oh, thank you. Yes, CSI. No, it's for sure. I know, I can tell you do deep dives. Right, you don't always agree with it, but you want to share it. Yes, Gloria, how do you pronounce that? Gloria Dellin? Yeah, she's amazing. Oh, she's going to the hearing? Ah, okay. So I need to check her out. And does she have a YouTube channel or does she just come on lives? Hmm. Yeah, she's like that Black Dove guy. They are both like the two super sleuths in this particular case. Black Dove is also amazing. I really appreciate him. He's been sharing so much. Oh, it was postponed. Okay. Yeah, I'm really curious to hear what comes out of that. Oh, you haven't seen them? Well, CSI, you are deep in the Summer Wells case. And I think it's almost oh, she does have a channel. Okay. It's almost impossible to be deep into all these different cases because I'm trying to do Summer Wells and then this Dylan Rounds case I brought in. And now I'm like, oh God, now I have two cases that I've got to try to sort of keep on top of. And like this week, I've just been so tired because of all these lives that I've been trying to listen to. And I really need to kind of figure it all out and see what's going to work for me because it's a lot. Okay, well, I need to find Gloria Dellin's channel. She is definitely very sharp. All right. So, if any of you guys have any further comments or questions, I'm willing to try to answer them. Zaf was asking me one day if I wanted to go on her live, and I was like, no, I can't. I don't know all this stuff. So that's why I started deep diving, because I would really love to go on her panel. I really like her. But there's no way I had as much information as Black Dove and Gloria Dellin. I'm trying to, but that's another case. I don't know anything about that Van McCrae case. I see that Justice for All is covering that extensively, and I have no clue even what that's about. I love Zavgirl too. Let me tell you, she is so nice. She responds to emails. She's been really helpful to me when I asked for advice. Like I said, she offered to let me go on her panel, but I definitely wasn't ready for it at that point. UCSI and Zavgirl, and even Ziggy's been really nice to me too. So all of those people have been very, very helpful. Yeah, you can tell Zavgirl's just a normal, decent human being. And she was so upset yesterday because people were criticizing her for what they thought she wasn't asking the hard questions, or that hi, Angela. Oh, there you are. That's so nice to see you. I recognize your name from all the comments that you share. Thank you so much. Yes, you can tell Zav is really just decent, down-to-earth person. And she was really hurt that she got all this criticism. It sounds like Black Dove was also criticized. And he's like, hey, I'm not even a YouTuber. I'm just trying to help. I have a connection to this Dylan. I feel a connection to him. You know, why are all these people coming at me? Right, you want to share the information. I don't want to do drama. I can't stand the drama. You know, to me, the drama doesn't help the case, doesn't help Dylan, doesn't help Summer. With the Summer Wells case, though, it's almost like it was impossible to avoid the drama. I'm hoping, but it feels like this case might be headed that same way, but I'm hoping that that can be pulled back because that's just, it just doesn't help the victims. All right. Okay, guys, I'm going to end it here because I'm so thirsty and I'm still kind of freaked out that I did my second live. Believe me, I've been terrified of doing this, but a part of me has really wanted to because it just looks like so much fun. And it's so nice to actually be able to interact in real time with you. Thank you, Angela. All right, so hopefully I will see you again. Maybe I can try to schedule this so that you have a warning and not just show up. But I really appreciate everybody who showed up, and I'm very grateful for you guys. Thank you, thank you. All right, I'm gonna end it. Bye, everybody. Bye, CSI. Bye, Scotty H. Bye, Extra AF. Love your name there, Angela Tarkanan. I do see you. I see you every day in my comments, and I'm so grateful for you, Mama Shamita. Everybody, thank you, thank you. Bye until the next time on Bed Crime Stories.